All day here on News Center, we've been hosting a telethon to raise money for the Honor Flight Maine program. Tonight, we're going to do something different with our 6 o'clock newscast.
We are dedicating the next 30 minutes to Maine veterans in a program that we are calling Service and Sacrifice, Stories of Maine Veterans. Nearly 150,000 veterans live in Maine. That's about 1 in every 10 of us.
They are our neighbors, our friends, our family members. Many are suffering physically or mentally from military trauma. And every day here in the United States, 22 veterans commit PTSD-related suicide.
PTSD symptoms range from flashbacks to hostility to loneliness. NewsCenter's Chris Ficini has the story of a young Mainer climbing out of his PTSD.
I wanted to do something a little bit above and beyond average military. I got out of airborne school and I was given my orders to Alaska, Fort Richardson. I got to there and within a month we were told that we were going to be deploying soon. So immediately I'm thinking, wow, this is really fast.
21-year-old Kevin Demmons enlisted in the Army in 2011, airborne infantry and paratrooper.
Basically what separates paratroopers from regular Army or infantry soldiers is the fact that, well, we jump out of planes. We're mission capable in a lot of different ways that most can't because of the fact that we can just, with a moment's notice, be told, hey, we're going here, jump in the plane, jump out, and then you're there.
And on his first assignment, there was Afghanistan, the Pac-T province.
Most of the stuff we did was all on foot missions, like get dropped off at a certain location, but with a truck or maybe even a helicopter if it was like an air assault mission at night, and then you would just walk to wherever you were going.
Kevin says he was attached to a sniper team and most of the time was either looking for weapons or certain people in a mountainous region. Danger, he says, was everywhere.
One of the trucks got hit with an RPG. A couple of my buddies got injured from that.
An RPG, rocket-propelled grenade. What happened next, Kevin calls his worst military experience.
On the way through another town the same day, we ran into a suicide bomber. He had just killed a group of MPs that were handing out pens to kids. That's the worst thing that ever happened. Yeah, that's the worst. We had to unload the trucks of all our gear and equipment to make room for the bodies.
Kevin was put behind the wheel, ordered to get a badly wounded soldier to a hospital.
So I drove and I listened to the people in the back trying to work on him and keep him alive. And I know he had kids and I know he had a wife. But I don't know if he ever made it.
2 years later, out of the military, Kevin was back home.
I was spending a lot of time in my basement, alone from everyone and everything. I just didn't want to deal with anything. I just wish I could at that time, I just wished I could have just paused everything in life and just be alone.
In a dark place, Kevin bounced from job to job. 6 months here, 6 there.
At that time, I decided to go to the VA and start getting help. So I talked to a counselor and started getting treated.
And met retired Master Sergeant Mike Gray, 20 years in the Air Force in Intel and Commander Control, and a staff NCO. He recognized the trauma paralyzing Kevin.
I saw a lot of myself that when I was very fresh in trying to deal with my own issues, recognized it right away as going, well, he's about this phase, when I realized I needed help, but I didn't want to admit that I needed help. And kind of had some no-nonsense conversations with him about this is where you're at, and this is where you're going, and this is how we're going to get there. but you're not going to do it alone.
Gray's been stationed around the world on every continent but Australia, an advantage, he says, to reaching all kinds of soldiers struggling to assimilate, even struggling to live.
Nothing is greater than taking somebody who, the minute you meet them, you're worried about them harming themselves. And within 24 hours, you can see that glimmer of hope. And you recognize that as, okay, that's what we're going to work with.
Gray's job now at the Easter SEALs concentrates on outreach, literally getting out on the streets, looking for veterans who may be in distress in places no one thinks to look.
My job is exhausting, but it's the most rewarding thing I've done since taking the uniform off.
What Gray has done for Kevin Demmons is something some federal programs simply cannot.
He was there anytime I needed it. I texted him, he was there. It doesn't have to be for anything special. I mean, just to know that somebody's on the other end of that phone that wants to talk to you is sometimes enough.
And Easter SEALs covered his expenses, paying for bills and a mortgage that Kevin couldn't manage to cover. And then something else happened. Kevin began to dream about making a new future for himself.
When I talked to my therapist, he told me to find a happy place, to find a place that you go to that you don't think of any of the bad stuff. You don't think of any problems in life. For me, that's the woods. So anytime I'm in a ground blind or a tree stand or I'm out in the water fishing, I don't think of those problems.
And the woods figures prominently into Kevin's new company, where he'll take veterans out hunting, hiking, and fishing, free of charge.
To give them that moment of peace, to give them that sense of happiness and joy that a lot of guys don't have.
The feeling that until he returned to the woods, Kevin Demmons had forgotten all about.
I have a migration hunt that I have planned that is going to take a group of 3 to 4 vets, and we're going to travel from Maine to New York to Maryland or Delaware, travel the East Coast and follow the migration for any bird hunters that want to do that.
I think it's great for him personally to have a mission again in life, and I think it's also fun to watch where this will go because of his enthusiasm and his drive. Sky's the limit. We'll see what he does.
And if I have the opportunity to do that with other veterans, I believe that's why I was put on this earth. I believe that's God's plan for me.
Chris Ficini, News Center.
Kevin found help through the Veterans Administration and Easter SEALs, but for many veterans, help seems elusive. Some, even though they put their lives on the line, don't feel worthy of receiving help. They
are hopeless, and some are homeless as well. In fact, some right here in Portland will be sleeping outside tonight. You may not see them, but they are there. News Center's Tori Ryden talks with veterans who are spending their nights on the streets.
I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I got out, it's so easy to remember because I got out on April 1st, 1992. I was in during the original Desert Storm.
They said I couldn't cope with military life. I have bipolar. I take medicine for it every day. You let me get off my medicine and things are odd.
I was in the Gulf War. I've been here for 2 years. You're just going through just running. I can't stop running.
I don't ask for a lot of help from anybody.
How to explain it, just running. And I mean, I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids. And I just running.
I'm like trying to throw a cat in a bathtub.
Thomas, Al, John, and Mark, each of them a U.S. veteran. Each of them has been or is homeless.
Oh, I've done tons of jobs. I've had them when I lost the ongoing circle. I had a place, but I just couldn't afford it. So I just packed up and moved out.
I have this. Those 2 crappy little jackets over there where I'm wearing. This is where I have one. I sleep outdoors every night, even in the snow. They've got my sleeping bag right in there, which I got from the veterans.
This story plays out on any given night for an estimated 40,000 veterans across the country, according to the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. Others who are counting, like Social Solutions in the Military Times, put that number at closer to 50,000.
It's rough out here. I'm telling you, being on these streets, it's very rough.
And for a self-professed former Navy SEAL, that's saying something. John describes dangerous missions in the Persian Gulf.
Departure frequency 118.0.
I'm telling you, when you jump out of the airplane and your mission might be a mile away and you're swimming, let me tell you, there's nothing but scare.
A military discharge upended John's life. Struggling with PTSD and still unhealed physical wounds, he's bounced from town to town, city to city.
This is a totally different war. When you wake up because you don't have something to drink and you're shaking so bad, and even going to work, it's an everyday process. When I'm working, I'm good. I just block everything out. When I'm not, I'm on these streets looking for another beer.
And I was able to hang on for, several months, and selling CDs or, PlayStation games or whatever to cover the rent. But then eventually, I lost my place.
Thomas is now an advocacy outreach community advisor and has a unique advantage. He was homeless for years. Like many vets, he says he didn't consider himself worthy of receiving assistance from a program that ultimately helped him rebuild his life.
Combat vets from Vietnam, those are vets. I'm not really a vet, and there are a lot of people that qualify for these services, but they think, oh, well, there's someone else, there's another vet that's more deserving.
And that is a valid point, according to the National Veterans Foundation. Their research shows a lack of societal support and social isolation are the leading causes of homelessness among our veterans. Compounding that risk are exposure to combat, repeated deployments, and economic and personal hardships. Once brave warriors sliding into the fringes, out of sight and often out of reach.
It's a shame that we're out here, and another thing is that we gave so much. You give your heart and soul, and that's and these veterans out here, they're alone, they're scared. I guarantee that, and they drink to kill the pain.
They're unable to get medication. They're unable to get to the counseling that they need, and so many choose to self-medicate. So that's where people develop the kind of substance use disorders that can take years off of their lives and take years to kind of resolve. It's a real challenge.
A challenge Health Services Director Bill Burns takes on every day. He's helped run more than a dozen shelters and food pantries across the U.S. and says the deck is stacked against veterans.
Yeah, we're trying to get this guy into detox.
Many return home suffering from deep physical and mental wounds.
The sad kind of truth is that many of the people that we serve have experienced significant trauma and multiple times throughout their lives. Certainly, our veterans are at risk for experience significant trauma and then PTSD once they come home. And sadly, we know that 70% of the people that we serve don't have insurance.
I got a surgery coming up, and so they want me to try to stay sober until that happens.
Al needs throat surgery, and Mark, who had a tracheotomy 3 years ago, just got some tough news.
And they figured out I had cancer. Now I got it again. Oh boy.
While both veterans will receive medical care, it's difficult to not wonder what would have happened if they had been reached sooner, if they weren't living on the street.
We start seeing kind of disease processes crop up that you might expect to see in the rest of the population in their late 60s, early 70s. And we see that occurring in guys that are in their 50s and early 60s. One of the sad realities of life for people that are homeless is that their experience is like living the worst day of their life over and over and over again.
And while hope may seem evasive to those living that nightmare, it is something these veterans must hold on to.
I want them to take care of the veterans that have been in Iraq and Afghanistan and take care of them boys, man. They went through hell.
The programs they got to keep them going in order to get the homeless, the vets off the street.
For me, I just want people to love me as much as I love them. Like all of us, we deserve it. I believe in God, and I believe that this life is is just here for now, and we'll be in a better place one day.
And there is help available to all veterans. We've posted information, phone numbers, and links on our websites, WCSH6.com and WLBZ2.com. When we return with Service and Sacrifice, Stories of Maine Veterans, we'll hear from one of Maine's newest veterans. Plus, a former politician who's also a veteran is now heading up a program that's proving critical in helping struggling vets.
Whether you're talking about anxiety, depression, issues surrounding suicide, talking about job issues. People are coming back who are unemployed.
And a reminder, we are still taking donations for Honor Flight Maine. Welcome back to tonight's special News Center program, Service and Sacrifice, Stories of Maine Veterans.
As we mentioned, 1 in every 10 of us in Maine is a veteran. While many grew up here, others found their way to Maine through a variety of circumstances.
Easter Seals is helping them find housing and jobs. News Center's Amanda Hill shows us how.
So ready to search for apartments today? Mm-hmm.
It's a big day for Callie Johnson, who is hoping to find a permanent place to call home. The 28-year-old has been sleeping in her car for the past 3 weeks.
It's a Jeep. It's brand new. And so I gotta pay that payment, so yeah.
And that she's not sure she'll be able to do. She's been out of work for a while.
I was really depressed and going through a rough time, and I didn't know what else to do because I was just drowning, I guess you could say.
Callie is a veteran of the U.S. Navy. Following boot camp, she landed at a base in Florida in the Seaman Apprenticeship Program. What happened there is difficult for Callie to talk about. It was a painful period. Her military career ended.
I just would start by saying that I admire Callie so much. So there's a lot of challenges of reintegration. She just comes in with more energy than I would ever expect, more enthusiasm, and a real willingness to participate and to drive her own job search. So it's been really wonderful getting to know her.
Rhiannon Gazillion is an employment specialist who works directly with veterans like Callie. She too is a veteran. She landed a job with the Easter Seals when their homeless veterans reintegration program got funded.
It's so cool to get out of service and get to keep working with your fellow veterans because you really get each other, and there's this unspoken bond, something you just don't have to say, and there's an ease between you.
Ever since I've been here, I've worked with Rhiannon almost every day.
The two have been chasing down job leads for Callie, editing her resume and filling out multiple job applications.
That hard work appears to have paid off because Callie got a job here at the Jetport, a job that will be instrumental in helping her move forward away from that dark time in Florida.
I'm in training right now, so I'm just ready to get an apartment.
She knows with the help of the Easter Seals that will happen soon. Callie Johnson is also fully aware of how far she has come in just 3 weeks.
Otherwise, I'd be very lost probably still. And I probably just would end up going back to the same old routine. Go through life.
Amanda Hill, News Center.
Since 9/11, more than 1.6 million men and women have deployed to military combat service in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, and other areas of conflict around the world. Many of our soldiers have served multiple tours of duty.
Treating soldiers with physical and mental wounds requires manpower and a lot of funding. And that's where Veterans Count comes in. It's a program here in Maine that former Secretary of State Charlie Summers is now running. News Center's Chris Rose has the story.
They always say that you stand on the shoulders of the people that went before you, and I think in many cases that's very, very true.
And in Charlie Summers' case, that's a long line of relatives stretching back in history, a record of service woven into the fabric of who he is.
With me, my father, my uncle, my great-uncle, my grandfather, World War I, World War II, Korea, going back to the Civil War.
Summers served in both Iraq and Afghanistan as a public affairs officer. Here in Maine, he is one of the 128,000 veterans, nearly 13% of the state's population.
That's a big number. Mainers are obviously very proud and patriotic individuals who serve their state and serve their nation and do it very, very well.
Soldiers, after all, are fighting a very different war than their parents and grandparents. Returning home with very different, very difficult issues.
Whether you're talking about anxiety, depression, issues surrounding suicide, talking about job issues, people are coming back who are unemployed, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, And many of those issues don't manifest themselves immediately upon return from service. It might take 4 or 5 years, but you'll begin to see that.
Summers now heads up the Northern New England Easter Seals and its Veteran Services Program. The program reaches veterans and their families when they are most vulnerable.
We've intervened successfully 109 times in suicide attempts.
Its financial arm, Veterans Count, offers another kind of assistance.
Say if their car happens to be giving them problems and they need to get to work or to a job interview, we'll pay to have the car repaired. If their roof is leaking, if they are deployed and their spouse is at home and their pay is lagging behind and they're missing car payments or rent payments or mortgage payments, Veterans Count will come in and help bridge that gap.
Summers says bottom line, the focus is on getting veterans, our veterans, back on their feet, back to living healthy lives.
Obviously someone is in a very difficult and dark place, and to actually have people here that I can help support, whose job it is to bring people kind of back from the abyss, if you will, that's a very nice thing to be able to say that you're a part of.
I'm Chris Rose, News Center.
And still to come, a unique program where horses help restore confidence and mobility for physically and mentally wounded veterans.
So there's actually that moment of peace in a crazy world, and on the back of a horse, you regain that freedom.
Carlisle Academy is also the first in the nation that's training veterans for competition.
We will take you there when our News Center special Service and Sacrifice Stories of Maine Veterans continues. In the meantime, we are still taking donations for Honor Flight Maine until 6:30.
Welcome home, Sarge. Welcome home.
Welcome to Bangor.
Since the early 90s, this is the first American greeting our troops receive when they return from service. A handshake and a smile from volunteer troop greeters at the Bangor International Airport. Getting back to home soil, though, can be a difficult process for soldiers who have deep emotional and physical injuries.
On a farm in Lyman, veterans are receiving help on the backs of some four-legged friends. News Center's Tori Ryden takes us there.
It takes a team of handlers to get Vietnam veteran Janet O'Day up on a horse.
There, yay! We did it!
But once she's up on Onyx, it's just a woman and her horse.
This feels better. I feel like I'm sitting in her seat now. You know, I use the word euphoria for how I feel when I'm on the horse, and I think the more I think about it, it's because I feel like the horse is doing my mobility for me.
Janet's been using a cane for years. She broke her neck in a service-connected car accident, leaving her initially a quadriplegic.
And it was finally my rehabilitation doctor that suggested I do hippotherapy,
which by definition is the use of horseback riding as a therapeutic or rehabilitative treatment used to improve coordination, balance, and strength.
This is all about you being independent. Ready? Plan your halts.
At Carlisle Academy, a premier integrative riding school, veterans are reclaiming their physical and mental independence on the backs of horses.
They accept you without prejudice, as long as you respect them. And if you respect them, they're going to respect you.
Deborah Moulton served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait and suffers from PTSD. As with Janet, once Deborah's up on a horse,
Mabel, there's a camera. You love cameras. It's my girl.
Well, the world looks a lot different.
They're a total mirror of what you're feeling, and they feed off you, you feed off them. Here she comes. And I just relax. I just totally relax, and you have to be in the present with a horse because it's a big animal.
Now, if I were you, I would suggest that you shorten your reins up a little bit.
British horse trainer Clive Milkins has been immersed in paradressage and disability sports training for the past 29 years.
Which way are we going at the end?
And with veterans,
are you sure?
He heaps on the humor.
Yes. Definite? Yes. Good, well done. There's actually that moment of peace in a crazy world. And on the back of a horse, you regain that freedom, you regain that control and empowerment that suddenly you've lost for an awful set of circumstances. So that's what they do for veterans.
Really utilize the horses here
for someone's healing or emotional rehabilitation or bonding with an animal in a way that maybe opens doors for them that they may have closed off.
Sarah Armentrout started the Veterans Horse Program at her family's Carlisle Academy in 2008.
I thought I threw you guys some hay.
She calls the impact on veterans profound.
When you put them on a horse, it's amazing actually how much function and ability comes back.
And one step further, Carlisle has the country's only paraequestrian program, the sports side of equestrian, but for disabled veterans.
And some fellow paradressage equestrians just rode at the Rio Olympics.
A VA adaptive sports grant is allowing Sarah to take what she knows on the road.
I would like so many more veterans to know that this is an avenue for them where they could perhaps go from therapy into equestrian sport.
Yep, I'm ready.
That level of competition may not be on Janet or Deborah's radar.
Oh, somebody braided your hair today.
But keeping a weekly appointment at Carlisle Academy most certainly is.
He knows Tuesdays. He goes, oh, you're going to giddy up and go. That's what he says to me.
I do cherish it. It's the most important day of the week for me. I feel very empowered that I'm moving nicely, not with my crutches and limping along. And I think that's what I really like about it.
Tori Ryden, News Center.
Carlisle Academy is among many Maine-based programs that are available to veterans. We've put a complete list of services and programs on our websites, WCSH6.com and WLBZ2.com.
We want to thank you for joining us this past half hour for Service and Sacrifice, Stories of Maine Veterans, and to all 150,000 Maine veterans, thank you for your service.
Good night.